You are 26 years old, and you think you understand money because you have a savings account and no credit card debt. You earn $52,000 a year as a junior accountant at a mid-sized logistics firm in Ohio. You budget on a spreadsheet. You contribute 3% to your 401k because HR said to. Every month, you have roughly $400 left over after rent and expenses. You put it in savings. You feel responsible. You feel ahead. You have no idea how far behind you are. This is the version of your life where nobody told you the rules. Always there, in plain view, written in language you were never taught to read. Compound interest is not a concept you think about because the bank charges it to you instead of paying it. The car you financed at 7.9% will cost you $4,200 more than the sticker price by the time it's paid off. Your savings account earns 0.01% annually. Inflation runs at 3.4%. Every year you save, you are quietly losing purchasing power and calling it discipline. Your 401k is in the default target date fund. Someone else made every allocation decision for you, a machine calibrated for median outcomes. You will retire at 67 with enough to survive, if nothing goes wrong, if the market performs, if you don't get sick, if you don't get laid off at 54. You are not building wealth. You are managing the controlled erosion of your financial position while calling it responsibility. You are managing your financial life the same way a passenger manages a flight. Present, belted in, entirely dependent on systems you don't understand and can't override. Across town, someone your age is doing something different. Not smarter, not richer. They started with less. Someone handed them a book, or a conversation, or a moment of clarity, and that information restructured the way they see every dollar that moves through their hands. They know the difference between an asset and a liability. They know a car is not an investment. They know their debt's interest rate is the guaranteed return they forego. They know that time is the scarcest resource in finance, and they are using it. Then something happens to you. It doesn't feel like an opportunity. It feels like a problem. Your company announces a restructuring. 40 positions eliminated. Yours survives, but the CFO calls you directly, which has never happened before. He tells you the pension liability is $23 million underfunded. The board wants options within 90 days. He wants someone who can model scenarios. He uses the phrase capital restructuring and asks if you're familiar with the concept. You say yes. You are not. That night, you spend 4 hours reading everything you can find about unfunded pension obligations, liability-driven investing, and defined benefit versus defined contribution plans. By midnight, you understand the problem. By 2 a.m., you understand that this company has been borrowing against its workers' retirements to fund current operations. The pension collapses in 36 months without intervention. You write a 3-page memo. You send it at 4 a.m. The CFO calls you at 8:12. This is where the two versions of your life diverge permanently. In the first version, without financial knowledge, you write the memo in the language of risk avoidance. You flag the problem, copy compliance, and call it done. The external consultant arrives, spends 6 weeks producing a report you could have written in 2, bills $180,000. He recommends a bond ladder and a modest contribution increase. The problem is managed. You are not involved further. You return to accounts receivable. You are 34 when the pension fund is quietly wound down anyway. You read about it in an internal memo you weren't copied on. In the second version, the version where you spent 8 months reading, you write something entirely different. You model 3 restructuring scenarios: a contribution increase, a pension obligation bond issuance, and a soft close to new entrants. You calculate the after-tax impact of each approach on free cash flow. You attach the spreadsheet. The CFO reads it over the weekend. On Monday, the the CFO asks if you want to sit in on a call with the company's investment bank. You say yes. This time, you mean it. You notice the banker is citing a discount rate that understates the liability by roughly $3 million. You write it on a notepad and slide it to the CFO. The CFO asks the banker about it. The banker adjusts the model. After the call, the CFO looks at you. He says he wants you moved to a new reporting structure. 2 weeks later, you are Director of Corporate Finance Strategy. Your salary is $94,000. You are 26. This is not luck. This is not talent. This is the compounding return on information acquired early. The next 18 months teach you that every system you operate inside has 2 layers: the visible mechanism and the actual mechanism. The visible mechanism is what gets presented in board decks. The actual mechanism is what gets discussed in the 40 minutes before the board deck is circulated. Capital doesn't flow toward the best ideas. It flows toward the people who already control capital. Your job is to be positioned close enough before options are considered. You move $4 million of the pension portfolio from equities into a barbell of short-duration treasuries and long-duration corporate bonds. The allocation produces an 8.2% return in a year when the S&P returns 4.1%. Nobody celebrates loudly, but the CFO remembers. The investment bank remembers. A VP named Castellano emails you 8 months later. She is building a team. She wants to know if you are happy where you are. You are not. You join the bank at 30 as a vice president in the restructuring advisory group. The work is different from anything you have done before. You are not managing a single company's balance sheet. You are advising companies in distress, always arriving after the damage, determining what is salvageable and what must be cut. You learn to read a capital structure the way a surgeon reads an X-ray. Quickly, clinically, with immediate intuition about where the fractures are. Most corporate failures are not bad products or incompetent management. They are bad capital structure decisions made during good times, when the cost of leverage felt abstract. You are 31 when you join a small private credit firm managing $340 million in assets. The partners are former distressed debt traders from the 2008 cycle. They teach you that the most important skill is not knowing when to deploy capital, but knowing when to hold it. They wait 11 months without making a single new investment. Dry powder is not a failure of discipline. It is the precondition for opportunity. Then a regional bank fails. A middle market loan portfolio hits the market at 63 cents on the dollar. The firm deploys $80 million in 30 days. The 4-year recovery comes in at 140%. You are 34 when the fund closes at $1.1 billion. A transaction can now exceed a city's budget. You no longer think in monthly budgets. You think in basis points and duration-weighted exposure. A position moves 40 basis points against you on $60 million. You calculate the hedge. No panic at all. Your decisions affect companies' ability to pay workers, service their debt, and survive their leverage. You do not think about those workers very often. This is what operating at altitude does to you. Every pension collapse, every bank failure, the predictable result of an informed decision someone else could not contest. Financial literacy is not taught in most schools because an informed population makes very different decisions. Financial ignorance is not neutral. It is a structural advantage held by those already inside the system. You understand this the way you understand a game you once played without ever knowing the rules. You were 30 before anyone explained spreads, duration risk, or why rising yields hurt long-dated bonds. The wealthy hold assets. The working class holds wages. That single difference compounds over 40 years. The wealthy do not get richer by working harder. They own things that earn while they sleep. Equity stakes, private credit, royalty streams. Things compounding annually while others convert time directly into dollars. The gap between these two systems is not moral, it is mechanical, and it is completely learnable. Now you sit on the investment committee of a $1.4 billion fund. You are 38 years old. Your decisions move markets you once watched from the outside. You influence credit availability in 3 sectors now. 47 people return your calls within the hour. 6 people receive the same from you. You have enemies you will never meet. Positions crushed through information advantage alone. No malice, just math. Your power is fragile, dependent on liquidity, counterparty trust, and continued regulatory tolerance at all times. You know the version of you in Ohio, contributing 3%, saving $400 a month, falling behind. The difference between those two versions of your life was not intelligence, not character, not effort. It was information. Specific, learnable, freely available knowledge that one version had and the other was never given. It arrived through a single moment of curiosity that compounded into something that changed everything possible. Tomorrow, the fund has a $180 million term loan coming up for refinancing in a rising rate environment. The borrower is stretched. The original sponsors are beginning to explore an exit. There are 3 possible outcomes, and you have already mapped each one. You will decide before noon. The decision will have consequences for 260 employees at a manufacturing facility in Tennessee who will never know your name. 260 employees who will never know your name. The markets will open in 6 hours. Another operator is somewhere below you right now, reading everything they can find, working 4 hours past midnight, building the knowledge base that will eventually bring them to this level, or beyond it. The seat you occupy is not permanent. Nothing in this system is permanent. Powerful, but not safe. Influential, but replaceable. Wealthy, but not free. The game does not end. It accelerates. And the only question that has ever mattered, is it whether you arrived knowing the rules, or whether you spent your best years learning them too late. The spreadsheet was always there. The compound curve was always there. The rules were always there. The language was always learnable. The system was always understandable. You just needed someone to hand you the first piece. Somewhere, right now, the next operator is waking up. They don't know yet what they are capable of. They will type something into a search bar. They will read one thing, then another, and the curve begins. Back in the committee room, you close the folder. The decision is made. The exposure remains. The counterparty is watching. The regulators are aware. Nothing resolves cleanly at this level. Another crisis is building somewhere in the system right now. You can feel it in the spreads. You don't know where. You never do. Another operator waits to rise. The seat you occupy has always been temporary. The knowledge that brought you here, that is the only thing that was ever really yours. The markets open in 4 hours. The game does not end. It accelerates. And it starts with a single piece of information.